So finally, I just want to talk about apostolic relationship. The apostle never was, never has been, and never will be an island. If you come across an isolated individual who has no one around him but himself, and who is self-appointed and self-proclaimed apostle, beware. They exist, you know. They exist. One of the true marks of an apostle can be seen by the relationships he has in his or her life. And I say that, and you might disagree with me, but I believe women can be apostles. That's my personal belief. First thing I will say is this: apostles need apostles. Yep. This is crucial for many reasons: for accountability, for covering, for mutual support, and for safety. There's a reason Yeshua sent them out in twos. There's a reason. But will apostles always agree with each other? Of course not. We read of Paul seriously confronting Peter over what he perceived to be Peter's hypocrisy concerning the Jew and Gentile issue. Paul was seriously upset with Peter. They had a major fallout. And Paul seemed to have fallouts all over the place. He had a major fallout with Barnabas after they were both appointed as apostles over the issue of John Mark. Now, John Mark had been on their first apostolic missionary journey together, and Paul believed that he was a weak individual because he wanted to go home. And so when the second missionary journey came along, Barnabas and Paul had a discussion about it, and Barnabas, who was a loving apostle, he says, I want to give him another chance. And Paul says, no way. No way, he's let us down once, I'm not trusting him again. And they had a major, sharp disagreement, the Bible tells us. And they went their separate ways. Barnabas took John Mark, and Paul took Silas. So they went off. Apostles will not always agree. But I will say this, that they can operate side by side. And they are able to. Why? Because they recognize their differences in specific callings, specific fears, and specific functions. And while not always agreeing, they respect and release these differences in each other. I've already described how in Jerusalem we see something interesting, really beautiful happening, or we see it in the church in Jerusalem, where apostles and prophets and elders, they work together to provide leadership and oversight, not only to the Jerusalem church, but to the whole national expanding church. These three groups work together. So we see that the apostles' relationship to prophets and elders is particularly crucial. I want to say something now about apostles and prophets. First thing I'll say is this: apostles and prophets should be hitched together. A bit like two oxen or two horses or two men trying to climb a mountain. They should be hitched together. They should be harnessed. They should be joined. They should be fastened together. We kind of get this picture from the New Testament. And I'm saying that sadly, some apostles and some prophets never reach their full potential. And sometimes their gift becomes dormant and compromised. Why? Because they're unhitched. They are not together. Unhitched, they might achieve a little bit, but they don't reach the fullness of what Yahweh wants until they're together. Apostles and prophets who do reach their full potential and their gift and their calling have come to understand and appreciate their mutual roles in the kingdom of Yahweh. They know how to relate to one another in a positive way, and they add value to each other's lives. 1 Corinthians 12 states that Yahweh has given firstly apostles and secondly prophets. He's not here establishing a spiritual hierarchy, but a procedural relationship, a pattern in how they should work. What do I mean? In most cases we read of in Scripture, if not all, ultimately in matters of doctrine and direction, it was the apostle who would determine the way forward. And when serious matters came up, like the issue of circumcision in Acts chapter 15, the apostles and elders would meet together with the prophets, it would seem. They would discuss, they would debate. And it's interesting that on this particular issue, Judas and Silas were sent with Barnabas and Paul back to Antioch. Judas and Silas were prophets, and they went to confirm the word that had been given. Yahweh will often use his prophets to bring a word of direction directly to the apostles. However, as far as I can see, it's the responsibility of the apostles to make the decision as to what to do with what is presented. I'm just sharing what I see in the Scriptures. It's what I see. It's not the responsibility of the prophets to ensure that his or her word is carried out or followed through. Their responsibility before Yahweh is to deliver the word and then to leave it there. Deliver the word and to leave it there. They must also realize that the timing of that word is crucial. Once delivering the word to the apostle, it's important then that the prophet doesn't hold the apostle to ransom. Do you know what I mean by that? Do you think it doesn't happen? Do you think it hasn't happened? The prophet must not hold the apostle to ransom if that word is not followed through in the way the prophet thinks it should be. Sometimes a prophetic word is given to a prophet not so he or she can deliver it, but sometimes simply to pray about it, becoming a personal intercessor for the apostle and to the church. Paul often taught that each gift has a measure of faith, a measure of grace, a measure of rule, beyond which it's disastrous to move. The point I'm trying to make here is that there is a cut-off point in everyone's ministry. Both the apostle and the prophet need to know what that cut-off point is and not seek to minister beyond it. If he or she does, there will sometimes be very painful mistakes and consequences for the church and the person. Sometimes, because of the nature of both the apostle and the prophet and their different giftings, the apostle and prophet can become very, very close friends. As we heard yesterday, we heard about Elder Peter Warsop and Prophet Daniel Smith. They were the best of friends, as well as spearheading together with Valerie and others an apostolic team that laid the foundations, we heard yesterday, of all that we see today. Brother Daniel and Elder Peter Warsop were hitched together. Isn't that right, Valerie? One of the jobs of an apostle is to see and to share the spiritual mandate laid out by heaven for the church. But every apostle needs a team of individuals who can help him carry out this vision. A vital function of the apostles' ministry is to train disciples and recognize and release ministerial gifts within the body. An apostle is like an architect who has received a mandate or a blueprint from heaven. Now, an architect or a master builder knows that a house can't be built in 5 minutes. But an architect doesn't get depressed or fazed when he or she comes to a construction site and all he or she finds is a land filled with clay, sand, and stone. It's important to note the nature of apostles here. While others see a boring, ugly, useless site filled with rubbish and countless problems and risks and liabilities, the architect or the apostle sees what it can become in the future. An apostle's gift can see and create something out of nothing. And sometimes only the apostle can see it. Sometimes. But he does need a host of skilled individuals to produce what's on paper. And the New Testament, we know, goes to great lengths to speak about a many-membered body. The eye cannot do without the mouth. The hand cannot do without the foot. Every ministry gift is important to furnish this house and to make it beautiful.